This is All India Radio. In the program Spotlight, now we bring you an exclusive interview with CEO of Goods and Services Tax Network, Manish Sinha, on GST One Nation, One Tax. The interviewer is Ruchika Chitravanshi, journalist.
We have completed 4 years of the Goods and Service Tax, and now it's a good time to look at all the benefits that it has provided and some of the challenges that it has faced, especially in the face of a once-in-a-century pandemic that we faced this year. Mr. Sinha, can you tell us a little bit about how far do you think it has been successful in achieving its objectives, the whole Goods and Service Tax?
Goods and Services Tax has to be seen in the context of the nature of reform it is. Post-independence, I would consider this to be the largest indirect tax reform India has undertaken. And therefore, its success has to be seen in the context of what are the fundamental changes it has brought for the country in a very long-term perspective, besides what are the short-term benefits. On a very long-term basis, if you see, for the first time, India has become one integrated market, which effectively is like free trade agreement between all the states and center on one side. Second major benefit it has brought is it brought transparently to the notice of taxpayers and the government as to what are the tax rates, because the hidden taxes which were cascading got removed. And therefore, effective tax rate for very many large number of household goods came down, and effective taxes on each of the household came down. So one empirical calculation indicated that there was substantial saving for each of the households. So integrated market, logistics efficiency, savings, these are the major benefits which have started accruing because of GST. Of course, a large reform is also something where you learn while doing. Not every situation can be predicted when you have launched something as large as this on a national level IT platform. So those are areas where we are constantly improving. So all in all, I will say a very big, large tax reform, very successful for the country. There are areas still where we can improve, and we are working tirelessly to improve in those areas. That's how I will sum up the overall picture.
When you talk about areas that you want to improve, can you list out a few things that are priority right now that you're addressing?
One of the immediate priority areas will be because of pandemic. These small taxpayers or small businesses would be stressed. So GST Council in last 2 meetings has taken a series of decisions in terms of the period within which they have to complete their compliances, the interest payment which they have to make on late payment of taxes, similarly late fee waivers. So these are the areas where decisions have been taken and we have implemented it. So those are the areas where MSME is being helped. And on IT portal where taxpayers used to have problems, we have over a period of time improved the overall hardware as well as the software of the IT of GST portal, which is serviced by Infosys, run by GSTN. Now we have very smooth running system with glitches for having come down, almost eliminated it. If there are any, we will further want to improve that. Then there are areas of policy where improvements are feasible, but that is for the government to perhaps clarify. For me, I will say that giving a ease of compliance on IT platform is where GSTN comes in, and I personally would say that in the last 6 to 8 months, we have done considerable number of things which have eased the life of taxpayer. One of the most important thing which I will mention was a policy initiative was quarterly return and monthly payment. Earlier, small taxpayers, you also used to file monthly return. Now they file quarterly return. So QRMP, as this scheme is called, which got launched from 1st of January, is a major relief for small taxpayers. Then EVC, that is electronic verification code. Using OTP kind of facility, they can file their returns from home. Earlier, everyone needed in law a digital signature. So these are the kind of measures which have made life of a taxpayer easier. And there are very large number of other measures, but if there are specific areas which you would want to know about, I would be happy to list them out.
You've mentioned small businesses. GST is essentially a business transaction-driven tax, and it's linked to the fundamental business processes of sales and procurement and logistics, etc. Can you talk a little bit about how smaller and mid-sized businesses can hope for a simpler regime? How are you simplifying the whole system and bringing about the ease of doing business that you are talking of? Because while larger businesses are able to handle some of the requirements of GST, smaller businesses sometimes struggle to meet with those requirements.
I will divide their problems in 2 parts. One is basically technology uptake challenges. When compliance is to be done on IT platform, digital divide comes in play. So those are areas where hand-holding comes into operation, and we have a very robust system of call center where we handhold all the taxpayers, the small ones, and try to help them negotiate the portal. And in first or second experience, after a while, they become quite proficient. Similarly, when a new functionality comes, what we try to do is come up with creatives which are also in regional languages so that it is widespread. And we use social media extensively to make those creatives popular. These are tools which are there for hand-holding the taxpayer who's facing. Otherwise, on policy front, as I explained, that quarterly return monthly payment scheme effectively for each quarter of a financial year. Earlier, they used to file 3 GSTR1s and 3 GSTR3Bs, which effectively meant 6. Now they file only 2. So from 24, the number of compliances which they have to do by this policy initiative has been reduced to 8. So small taxpayers can now avail of this. By small here, I mean those having turnover of less than 5 crores. Already 40 lakh taxpayers are availing of this benefit, which was launched by the government from 1st of April. Over and above that, there are other simplification measures. For example, for filing of refund application, if you ended up making a mistake, the refund application can now be electronically withdrawn. Registration has been linked with Aadhaar, therefore, based on Aadhaar number, and Aadhaar validated registration can be given in 7 days. Similarly, we have started giving pre-filled return to all the taxpayers before the due date. So all you have to do is check whether those pre-filled returns have adequate information or not. And if you are satisfied with what has been generated by the system as pre-filled returns, you can file them. Similarly, your ITC flow. ITC is a major area where everyone is always worried. What is my ITC? How much to pay? We have started input tax credit. We have started giving a statement like what you get to see in income tax 26AS. That what is your credit will be visible to you every month. So it helps in various, what we are trying to do is transparently make more and more information available and more pre-filled forms to be given so that taxpayer is in a soft way nudged towards easier compliance and accurate and correct compliance. So those are the measures which have been taken to enhance the compliance and make it easier for the taxpayer.
We're talking about challenges of compliance, etc. Pandemic itself has been a major challenge for every aspect of the economy. There has been economic contraction as well, which obviously will then affect the GST revenue collections. Though I think we are seeing turnaround there as well now. Can you tell a little bit about your experience with the pandemic? How have you managed things and how has it impacted our overall collections?
Overall collections last year numbers are already there in public domain. As far as 21-22 is concerned, I would say that our worst is over. As you know, the GST collection takes place next month. That means for the economic activity of April, the revenue comes in May. For economic activity of May, the revenue comes in June. Economic activity of June, the revenue will come in the month of July. So 1 month late you get to know. For the month of May, now we are collecting revenue. The second important dynamic number which we constantly get to see are the e-way bill numbers. Based on these two numbers, I will say that we are past the worst, as it is also visible in the number of new infections, etc. And we are back to normal economic activity level, which you used to see towards the first part of April when the pandemic had not taken over. There was a period of 40-45 days when economic activity did take a hit, revenue did take a hit, but the impact is lot less than what it was in the first wave. So businesses have been smart, plus the pandemic has been of shorter period, plus there are compliance reliefs which were given by GST Council and also technology relief by way of EVC, electronic verification code, OTP kind of facility wherein you need not go to your office to do the compliance. Collective of these measures have helped the taxpayers kind of go back to business, and as we see from the numbers around, we are on a healthy path and the worst is definitely behind us of the second wave.
Were there any learnings from the pandemic that have stayed on, and even though you're saying that the worst is over, is there something that you will keep working on because you learned it from the pandemic?
What I have learned is most of the taxpayers came to say that give us remote filing facility, give us more and more data which makes our lives easier. So EVC facility, as I was explaining, electronic verification code facility has has to be made much more wider, and government has already taken decision that for most of the forms to start developing EDC. We will be working on that. Then make more and more data available to them in a pre-filled manner so that compliance becomes easier. Those are two steps from technology side, which is there as a learning for us. And on policy side, I'm quite sure that government is looking into other policy initiatives in terms of what are the COVID relief medicines, etc. You would have seen that I think government is better placed to comment as to how the tax relief has been given on all those items. I would say that learning is beyond technology. If I have to say one learning, because we are on a radio, that COVID appropriate behavior is very critical to ensure and vaccination so that every person in our office and businesses, those who are involved, must at least take care of these two things, because economic activity is linked to these two things being done by the citizens. So citizen has to kind of do that. That's a learning.
States have also said that difficulties increasingly in managing their own fiscal positions, and they've asked the center to step into a system. What is your view of that situation, and what do you think center needs to do to ensure trust with the states, these issues?
I will say that what you get to read in the media about trust deficit is little exaggerated. My experience of the council has been that this federal experiment is a very healthy experiment, and center and states are in a position to get together to find solution to most of the difficult problems. In the last council meeting, as the press release indicated, that there will be a specific council meeting to discuss these issues. I am quite certain that very honorable and senior wise political executives who join there to discuss will find a solution to the problem as they had found last time. And going forward, I do not see that as an area which will be a sticking point for GST to become successful. Solutions would be found collectively in the GST Council to all these issues.
4 years have passed. How do you see this law evolving in the next few years?
If there is one law which can claim itself to be dynamic and at times has been criticized to be changed very frequently, it is GST law. But I think that criticism is unfair, because India was doing a large federal GST, and therefore being nimble was very important. It was with this learning that a lot of changes were made in rules, compliances and law, so that all pain points which were found were quickly removed. Going forward, the direction will be to make compliance simpler for small businesses, make data more available to the taxpayer to help him be compliant, and make IT more robust. So these are the larger themes around which it will keep evolving.
In the area of technology itself, what is the kind of work that you're doing? What are the kind of tie-ups that you're entering to make it more robust mechanism? How are you going to achieve it?
What we have is a large consultative committee with trade, and we regularly keep interacting with them to find out as to what are the areas where they would like to. At the end of the day, they have to have ease of compliance. That's how I'll put it. So based on the feedback mechanism which comes from outside, external feedback, we constantly keep improving our system. Over and above that, we have our internal methods also, wherein we constantly keep monitoring various parameters of the large IT system. And wherever we see parameters will need improvement, there are scientific methods to measure the parameters of a large IT system. Wherever there is a need to improve the system, we constantly keep improving, both in terms of code fixes, improvement in the quality of code. By code, I mean IT software. Similarly, if there is a hardware upgrade required, it is provided. If the next level of technology is required, it is done. So it's a very dynamic place, and we constantly keep striving to improve our situation in terms of what the taxpayer experiences. And another set of people who use our system are tax administrators. So we also get input from them as to what are the kind of things which they are experiencing while using our system. So all of that is used to improve.
We can expect a lot of these processes that you mentioned, easing the compliance and strengthening the IT system. All of this is going to gather pace in the coming months, as you've said that the worst is over. And this is in fact a landmark law. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us today and sharing your thoughts.
Thank you very much.
You were listening to an exclusive interview with CEO of Goods and Services Tax Network, Manish Sinha, on GST One Nation, One Tax. The interviewer was Ruchika Chitravanshi, journalist. This program was produced and presented by the News Services Division of All India Radio. You can listen to it on a mobile app, News on AIR. This program is also available on a YouTube channel, News on AIR Official. You may email opinion about this program at airnsdtalks@gmail.com.